Hey church family and friends, I want to start today's e-service by having a shout out to Carl Herman. Carl has left, he's gone down to the South Island, what's that direction where I'm standing, and man, we're going to miss you, Carl. So if you're watching, hope you're watching, we love you, we just really appreciate you. You've been a huge encouragement to myself personally, and I know a lot of other people. Every time I saw you, I knew that there'd be a smile and a warm handshake coming from you. So it's so nice to have known you so far, and we look forward to hearing of all your adventures with yourself and Michelle when she joins you down there. I wonder, like, starting a new week, where you are at the moment. Are you in a group together? Is there a few of you around? Are you talking together, praying together? Have you had a sing already? I wonder how you're doing this. Today's message is all really about getting us ready to meet again. I'm looking forward to meeting again. We work through, can we actually do it with 50 people in the room? And yes, we can. Can we do it for 1 week? Well, it's pretty hard, so we thought let's just do another week, maybe 2 of e-service, and then let's get together again as soon as our numbers come right. But I want to use this time to get us ready to meet together again. You know, Jesus did that as well. So he prepared his disciples for a lockdown period, and that was in John chapter 13. Hopefully you've already got Bibles out, you've got Bibles open. John chapter 13. He was getting his disciples ready for a lockdown, not from the world, but a lockdown from him. What? He was going to go away for a period of time, and the disciples, his closest followers, couldn't come with him. And so they had to have their hearts prepared, and so this is what he did, and it's a kind of a weird concept to do. But John chapter 13, and we're going to read a fair amount of this, and we're just going to start off at verse 1. It was just before the Passover festival. Jesus knew that the hour had come for him to leave this world and go to the Father. And having loved his own who were in the world, he loved them to the end. So he's loving his closest followers to the end. How's he going to show this love for them and get them ready for their lockdown period or their time away from Jesus? Well, the evening meal was in progress, and the devil had already prompted Judas, the son of Iscariot, to betray Jesus. He's one of the closest followers of Jesus. And the devil had already prompted Judas to betray Jesus. Jesus knew that the Father had put all things under his power, and that he had come from God and was returning to God. So this is what he did. Okay, he's going. This is what he did to prepare his disciples. He got up from the meal. He wrapped a towel around his waist. And after that, he poured water into a basin and he began to wash his disciples' feet. They hadn't been in sneakers all day. They'd been in sandals all day. They'd been dirty, dusty, and yucky. And when they ate, they were already mid-meal by this stage, it says. But as they're eating, they're not sitting at a table like this. They're actually lying down at a table. And they kind of have an oval table in the middle. I don't know if you can see that. And it's like stacks of dominoes around the table. And so the head is here, and the feet are here, and there's another head here, and feet here, and they go around the table. But you can smell everything that's going on around you because you're lying close to each other. They'd lie on one side, and they'd eat with their right hand. So Jesus gets up and he ties his towel around himself and he starts washing his disciples' feet. And then he starts drying them with the towel that was wrapped around him. And so he goes around the table, he starts beside him. Probably Judas was first, probably just sitting to his left and behind him. The most honoured place at the table, that's where it's thought that Judas was. And he goes around all the way down to his disciples. The second to last one that he comes to, it's thought, is Peter, or Simon Peter. And listen to Peter's response as he's watching all these guys get their feet washed by Jesus, by their teacher, by their master. In verse 6, he came to Simon Peter, who said to him, "Lord, are you going to wash my feet? Are you going to wash my feet?" Jesus replied, "You do not realize what I'm doing, but later you will understand." "No," said Peter, "you shall never wash my feet." Peter's saying, "You don't get to wash my feet. That's a servant's job. You're a master. That's not how it works." Jesus came back with these cutting words. "Unless I wash you, you have no part with me. Unless I get to serve you in this washing thing, you have no part with me." But also there's another picture going on here. Unless you're cleaned by me, you can't be with me. And then Simon Peter, the penny dropped for him, and he goes, oh, don't just wash my feet, clean me completely, like wash my head, my armpits, everything, just wash me completely. My hands and my head as well, he said. Jesus, he didn't say armpits, not just my feet, but my hands and my head as well. Jesus answered, those who have had a bath only need to wash their feet. Their whole body is clean, and you are clean, though not every one of you. For he knew that he was going to betray him, and that was why he said, not every one of you is clean. So what he's saying there is that there's someone there that's not been cleaned before. Cleaned by Jesus. Cleaned by trusting in Jesus. That's how we get clean. By trusting in Jesus. But here Jesus is washing their feet to give them an example. And I just want to pause for a minute and say, are you one of those ones that's been washed clean by Jesus? Have you come to him in faith and trust and what he has done on the cross was in your place to pay for every dirty act you've done? To pay for every dirty thought you've done? To pay for every dirty thing you will do? Improper thing? Have you had Jesus wash you by saying, dear Father, I want to be clean by your Son Jesus? If you have, then you can have a part with him. If not, then you don't have a relationship with him yet, unfortunately. And there's consequences for that. We're just going to trace through a little bit of what happened to one of those guys who didn't have a relationship with Jesus. We'll come back to him. But let's go back to Peter and Jesus and the disciples getting their feet washed. When he'd finished washing their feet, he put on his clothes and he returned to his place. And he says, do you understand what I've done for you? He asked them. You call me teacher and Lord, and rightly so, for that is what I am. I'm teacher, I'm Lord, I'm boss, I'm master. Now that I, your Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, you should wash one another's feet. You should wash one another's feet. I have set an example that you do as I have done for you. Very truly, I tell you, no servant is greater than his master, nor is a messenger greater than the one who sent him. Jesus is saying, I'm loving you to the end, and this is my love for you. I'm teaching you how to serve others. You might be a teacher, because all these guys are going to become teachers and lords or masters or looking after other people. But Jesus is saying, if you're going to be my follower, you're going to do it by service, by looking after people. Verse 17, I don't know if you know that one very well. It's sometimes left off. Now that you know these things, you will be blessed or happy or full if you do them. Do you want to have a happy life? Look after other people. Do you want to be blessed and enriched? Look after other people. That's what God says. Okay. He's saying, this is the essence of who I am. This is the essence of who I am. And this is going to be the core of who you collectively are. Who you collectively are. There's a whole transition going on here in Jesus' ministry. He's going from, there's only one Jesus, and he's starting off Christianity. He's walking the streets of the earth for about 33 odd years. For the last 3 of those years, he starts gathering lots of followers. And their mission is revolving around Jesus, following Jesus this whole way. But now it's going to transition to something else, and he's preparing them for that. He's going to transition the whole world to not just see this one person, Jesus, but now to see the followers of Jesus. But not as a group of a whole lot of individual followers, but as a body, as a one. There's a passage in 1 Corinthians 12, verse 12 that I would invite you to turn to. 1 Corinthians 12, that describes Christianity as one body, or followers of Jesus as one body. And here it is. Just as a body, 1 Corinthians 12 verse 12, just as a body, though one, has many parts, all its many parts form one body, and so it is with Christ. For we who were baptized by one Spirit so as to form one body, whether Jews or Gentiles, slave or free, and were all given the one Spirit to drink. Even so, the body is not made up of one part, but of many parts. If you're a Christian, I've got some news for you. I don't know whether you'll like it or not, but you're not actually on your own anymore. You're with Jesus, but you're with every other one of his followers as well. And together, combined, you are one. And you have one message. The one message is that Jesus is the answer. But your message isn't just coming from your words, from your mouth. They come from your actions. What actions you say? Well, your actions towards each other. Let's go back to John chapter 13 and have a look at that. We're going to go, there's a part where Jesus is lying at the table and he identifies Judas as the one who betrays him. We're going to skip that for now and we're going to go on to verse 31, John 13:31. When he was gone, Jesus said, now that the Son of Man is glorified and God is glorified in him, if God is glorified in him, God will glorify the Son in himself and will glorify him at once. My children, I will be with you only a little while longer. You will look for me, and just as I told the Jews, so now I tell you now, where I am going you cannot come. A new command I give you. A new command I give you. I don't know if he had a dramatic pause at the end of this. You've probably read on already and seen what it is. But just imagine for a minute. Here's his disciples. They've heard all of Jesus' instructions. They've heard all of Jesus' expectations of them. And Jesus is now saying, a new command I give you. And I bet you they're sitting on the edge of their seat, although they're lying down and they're leaning forwards. What is this new command that Jesus is going to give them as they're eating at the table? Here it is. You ready for it? Love one another. What? That's not new. That's been all through the Bible, all through Jesus' teaching. That's not new. Well, it is and it isn't. It is because it's a fresh statement of this commandment. It's a fresh way of looking at things. I don't want you to look at loving people below you. I want to let you look at loving people above you. Jesus is saying, so I tell you now, love one another, verse 34, as I have loved you, so you must love one another. And by this, everyone will know that you are my disciples if you love one another. Jesus is saying, here's something fresh. You guys are going from one to one. Following one person to being one body. And to do that one body thing, you're not separate, you're part. Just like my hands are totally part of my head, I'm controlling them totally from my head, sometimes from my emotions. They're just one. We are one body. And you go, man, does that mean I have to love everybody in the church, everybody in Christianity? Because that's hard, because I know some scallywags. Well, yep, it does. But I want you to remember that John chapter 13 is connected to John chapter 15. John chapter 13 is connected to John chapter 15. What's John chapter 15? Well, Phil Edwards from church did a message on John chapter 15. It's on YouTube and I encourage you to look at it. It's only about 6 weeks ago, something like that, I'm guessing. But it talks about Jesus being the vine and we are the branches. And that for us to bear much fruit, we connect into him. Listen, John 15 verse 5. I am the vine, you are the branches. If you remain in me and I in you, you will bear much fruit. Apart from me, you can do nothing. So, firstly, we can love others if we connect into Jesus. It's so much easier, trust me. I've experienced it from other people when I've been bad. But I've also been able to give love to other people because you're trusting in Jesus, you're growing in his strength. If you just ask him, Lord, I need help to love this person, he'll transform your life. The other thing you might be asking is how far do I have to go? Well, it's interesting that Jesus talks about loving one another and shows them by washing their feet. And then he gives them that new command at the end of the chapter. So first part of the chapter, love one another by washing each other's feet. Second part, the end of the chapter is a new command I have for you, love one another. What's in the middle of this chapter? If we called this a sandwich and here's the bread and here's the bread, what's the filling of this sandwich? What's the filling of this sandwich? Well, it's an incredible picture of love. You might not have seen it that way before, but I want to take you to it. So it's John chapter 13 verse 18. He's just said that not all of you are my followers. And then in verse 18 he says, I'm not referring to all of you. I know that I have chosen, but this is to fulfill the passage of Scripture. He who shared my bread has turned against me. So there's something going on with sharing bread. What does that mean? Well, it actually explains it more as it goes. I'm telling you now before it happens, so that when it does happen, the penny will drop. You will believe I am who I am. Very truly I tell you, whoever accepts anyone I send accepts me, and whoever accepts me accepts the one who sent me. After he'd said this, Jesus was troubled in spirit. Very truly I tell you, one of you is going to betray me. That's outrageous. There's 13 people at the table, and one of them is actually going to betray Jesus, hand him over to be killed. Crazy. How does Jesus feel about that person? How would you feel? How do you feel about that person? He's already been identified as Judas, but the others don't know it. They've got no idea who it is. They've been walking together for 3 years. They still didn't know who it is that's going to betray them. His disciples stared at one another, at a loss to know which of them he meant. Verse 22. Verse 23. One of them, the disciple who Jesus loved, was reclining next to Jesus. He was probably in front of Jesus on his right hand side. Simon Peter motioned to this disciple, probably on the other side of this other disciple, who's probably John, Simon Peter. Simon Peter motioned to the disciple and said to ask him which one he means. So John's close to Jesus' head, and Simon Peter whispers over to John, ask him, who's the one who betrays him? John whispers over to Jesus and he leans in. Verse 25, leaning back against Jesus, he asked, Lord, who is it? And Jesus whispers back to John, or says quietly to John. The others don't seem to hear it. Jesus answered, it is the one to whom I will give this piece of bread when I've dipped it in the dish. What does that mean? What does it mean to dip a piece of bread in the dish and give it to someone else? Is that a normal practice? Yeah, it totally is. It totally is. From what I've read, from what I understand from the historians, is that in ancient times in the East, Middle East, when you would gather together for food, the host would honour one guest, and he would get the first piece of bread and he'd dip it in the sauce and he'd put it into the mouth of the person who was sitting usually next to him, the honoured guest. And so Jesus dips the piece of bread in, and he shows this person great love and great honour, and also does it quietly with him. And he turns around and he puts it into the mouth of Judas. Have a read. Verse 26, Jesus answered, it is the one to whom I will give this piece of bread when I have dipped it in the dish. Then dipping the piece of bread, he gave it to Judas, the son of Simon Iscariot. As soon as Jesus took the bread, Satan entered him, and Jesus told him, what you're about to do quickly. But look, no one at the meal understood why Jesus had said this to him. Since Judas was in charge of the money, some thought Jesus was telling him to buy what was needed for the festival or give something to the poor. As soon as Judas had taken the bread, he went out, and it was night. All right, let's put that down. This is an incredible work, isn't it, that Jesus did. He loved Judas even in that last moment. He respected Judas, he honoured Judas, he cared for Judas. But the devil had entered Judas's heart already, and it was too late. What are we supposed to do in the church? We're supposed to love. We're supposed to care for. We're supposed to go out of our way to look after. Maybe you're struggling with a difficult person and don't know what to do. You're welcome to call me or one of the elders to say, hey, look, I'm really struggling in this situation. We'd love to help you through it. We'd love to talk you through it. But go out of your way and love and care for other people. Because we're one body and we have to look after each other. One body is so important. You might now be saying, well, does that mean to love other people, finally? Do I need to go around and get a bucket of water out and start washing people's feet? Is that the new practice? Like you've got to come in with a mask on at church and then you've got to sign in with the QR code, and then you've got to get your feet washed by the pastor or someone else in the church, some other loving servant. And then you've got to go around washing each other's feet in church. That's not going to be our new practice. There's other ways to love other people. And I would encourage you to look up the one another's in the Bible. As one body, we're to love one another. There's lots and lots of them. All you need to do is a Google search. I might put a couple of links in the service to love one another. But how do you do that? Follow the one another's in the Bible. There's some here. Maybe you just want to choose one to practice today or this week. One is to be devoted to one another. Romans 12 verse 10. Be devoted to one another. Another one similar, it's also in Romans 12 verse 10. Honour one another above yourself. Maybe you need to be devoted to someone. Maybe you just need to say, look, I'm going to look after you no matter what. Or maybe you need to give them honour. Here's one that I think is really important. It fills my tank all the time. Encourage one another. That's 1 Thessalonians 5:11. Most of these are coming from Thessalonians or Romans. Encourage one another. I get so encouraged from people. A text, a verse shared has encouraged me this week already. Live in harmony with one another. Romans 12 verse 16. Pray for one another. James chapter 5 verse 16. Pray for one another. Build one another up. That's in Romans 14:19, 1 Thessalonians 15:15. And the final one that I've got for you today, comfort one another. 1 Thessalonians 4:18. Maybe you want to pick up one of those and start practicing them towards one of your fellow Christians. Because as the world sees us together, they'll see us as one body. As they see us loving, they'll see us as one body. And then they'll know that we are Christians, truly Christians. That's what identifies a Christian. Not what they say, but what they do for each other. That's what Jesus said. I had an illustration with the kids, and we talked about three being better than one, and I had 3 bits of string together, and I encourage people to tie them together so they look like one piece of string, and see how hard they were to break, or how much easier they were to stay together. Well, I've got one that I've prepared in advance. Well, I didn't prepare, but I got it. Here's a rope, and it's made up, I don't know if you can see it on that, but of lots of tiny bits of fibre. But together we don't call this fibres. We don't call this a bunch of fibres. We call it a rope, because it's so tightly wound and bound together that it's a rope. And it's flippin' strong. No matter how hard I pull on it, I couldn't break it. Well, this is what the church is supposed to look like. Not a bunch of individual fibres, but together, bound together, we're supposed to be one body, one rope. I'm going to pray for you guys as you look after one another and care for one another. And then we'll finish. Heavenly Father, we're just so thrilled to have your Son, Jesus Christ, that was asking to enter into a relationship with us, that offers for us to be washed, to be clean. Father, I pray for anyone who's listening to this video who hasn't been yet cleansed by your Son, Jesus Christ, that they would just call out and ask for that, or reach out and ask myself or one of the other team. Father, I pray for our church. Disunity is so common in church. Attacks by the devil, as Judas was, is so common in Christianity. Lord, protect your people, encourage your people, strengthen your people, but Father, most of all, unite your people, just as you are united with Father, Son and Spirit. Make us look like one body, not lots of little individuals, Father. Help us to respect and listen to each other, Father, we pray. Man, we love you, we love your word. Thank you for this opportunity. We so look forward to meeting together again. Thank you for this opportunity. In your name, amen. Well, bless you guys. Thanks very much. Thanks for your encouragement. Thanks for listening in. And we look forward to you just putting into practice these things. Give us a call if you need any help with anything, or if you've got any thoughts or comments. Bless you all, and we'll see you next time. See ya.